everyone, welcome back to Which Way to the Broom with me, your host, Jiminice. So this is episode 11, and as for announcements goes, I don't have any. My page has been dead and dry, and so is my life. So I got really nothing to go over or to talk about, so I guess we could just get right into the episode. Episode 11, Threefold, Karma, and the Blinding White Light. So let's start off the episode with karma. I want you guys to really think about this because I'm going to actually ask you guys a question. Now, you don't have to hit up the Facebook page or send me a message or reply to the comment section on this post unless if you don't want to, because I would never discourage you from doing that. But I want you guys to pause this video after I ask you these questions and really think on it first. So, first of all, what is karma? The second one is, how does it work and what does it necessarily do? 3 is, are there many different types of karma? So, this is the time that I want you to pause, and then I'm going to actually answer these questions. So if you don't pause now, you're going to hear my reply to those questions. So for one, what exactly is karma and how does it work? So when we talk about karma, I'm actually talking about the Hindu root of karma, which is karma. That is where it comes from. The word karma is from Hindu roots. So karma starts with, how are you living your life now? So let's say if I lived a bad life where I was a thief, and let's say I went across to my neighbor's house and I stole like $5. On my way back crossing my street, I'm not going to get hit by a truck. No, that's not karma. That's how people nowadays think that karma is. But it's not karma. Let's say I did that every day, every week, every month, for the rest of my life, and I did horrible, atrocious things, along with stealing $5 from my neighbor's house every day. When I die, my next life would be atrocious. I would probably live a hard life, harder than what I had for whatever reason I was stealing for. And a lot of times, in the karma in Hindu tradition, they would be turned into animals that were not desirable. But if you lived like a holy life, you would be turned into a cow, which is like their honored animal. So like if I lived a nasty life like I was doing, stealing this money and doing atrocious things, I'd be turned into like a rat or a snake. But you kind of get the gist. So that is karma. That is where we get the word karma. And now I'm going to answer my other question. Are there different types of karma? I'm going to say yes, but it is debatable. And here is the debate. The type of karma where I'm crossing the street and I get hit by a truck. That, I would say, is modern day karma, which technically I classify as a thought form because it is thought to be and is thought to react in the same way. So I don't necessarily think this karma works. I've never seen it work, but people tend to say that it does and that it does work for them, but I'm just like, okay, whatever. So it's a thought form that you must believe to become true for yourself. So with that being said, I want to talk about the threefold law, and I'm going to put this into 2 subgroups. Threefold law for the people who do practice threefold, and the people who do not practice threefold, what it is like for the people who do not practice it. And then I'm going to talk about how it magically works. It works through the law of attraction, and we're going to touch on that. So just kind of let's run through these 3 subgroups about the threefold law. So for the people who do practice the threefold law, they're probably mainly Wiccan, but that doesn't mean that everyone who practices threefold is Wiccan, because I could adopt it into my practice if I really cared to do so. So you don't have to be Wiccan to practice any kind of read, law, write, whatever. whatever. You literally build your path the way that you want to, brick by brick. Your path is your house. You take your bricks and you build your house. Okay. So threefold law for the people who do practice. So the threefold law, or rule of three, meaning that whatever you cast out will come back to you threefold. So for the people who do practice threefold law, I think it's very beneficial to the people who do practice it for the entirety of what it is. So if I practice threefold and I cast out a lot of positive workings for myself, I could see this being like a really selfish read, to be honest. I have a dirty mind. I'm sitting here thinking, I'm just like, ooh, okay. So let's say I cast out a spell to bring me back prosperity, and this prosperity comes back to me threefold. Then I'm just like, hey, this isn't too bad. But a lot of people see the threefold law as a punishment, but I'm going to touch on that later. But anyway, so the people who practice threefold, they believe anything whatsoever you cast out comes back to you 3 times more. So, with that being said, the Wiccan reads also have, more reads than just the threefold. But then again, some people do debate that the threefold doesn't actually exist in the first place, that it is from Hollywood, but I'm still getting off topic. You can clearly tell that I'm not a fan of the threefold, and I apologize for this because this makes this episode extremely biased, and I'm trying so hard. Oh, guys. Okay, so the people who practice the threefold, they tend to have a very passive understanding of magic. Their magic is very passive. They're more inclined to self-healing or healing others. They're not really too aggressive with their practice. And now I'm not saying that this is everyone who practices the threefold, so don't hear me out that way, but you get my point. So let's talk about the people who do not practice threefold, aka me. So I don't practice threefold. I don't practice it for one because I think threefold is very conforming and restricting. For one, I absolutely believe that. I think it to be true because I think whenever I joined Wicca, whenever I was 16, I joined because I wanted to get away from the conformity of Christianity. I joined because Wicca, I thought at the time, was everything that Christianity was not. But I soon quickly realized that Wicca was everything I wanted to get away from in Christianity. Not everyone's going to think that, but I sure as hell did. So it took me a long time to find where I was at now. And the path I am at now, anything constricting me, I hate. I hate it. I hate it. I hate clothes. I hate boundaries. For myself, not like in other people, but like I hate limits. I want to test the limits. I want to push them. I want to see how far I can bend those limits. And the threefold for me makes me lose my voice. It makes me limit or control my magic because it's not correct. For me, threefold is a punishment. And I don't think anything you do with your magic should come back to you as a punishment, because your magic is a piece of you. It is what you are, and you're basically punishing your magic. And I don't think that's right at all. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And I want to talk about now about how threefold works. So if you do believe in threefold, this is how it works. So it is actually the law of attraction that makes threefold work. So if I believed in the threefold and I would do workings where I'm just like, okay, this is going to come back to me threefold and it's going to bring my life all of this good stuff, then I'm going to be drawing it back. I'm going to be attracting my energy back and tripling it as I attract it back. So if I also believed in threefold and I did something that was not desirable, or perhaps it was hurting someone, or is everything that the community happens to say is bad, like empowering yourself, using your magic for selfish reasons, changing something about yourself, like adapting things to your soul, gaining different abilities, just being selfish, I suppose. I don't really know what they mean by being selfish. But let's say you did workings like that. You constantly are going to be kind of, I think, in fear that threefold will come back to you. And it does, because you're attracting it back. Now, for the reason that threefold does not work on everyone is, one, because they simply don't believe in it and they do not attract it to them. But here's my other theory. I love to explain this because it kind of helps people understand. So I use this by talking about the god Anubis, who weighs the hearts of the guilty. So for someone who doesn't practice threefold and they cast out spells that are supposedly harmful, like curses or hexes, when Anubis weighs their hearts, they do not feel guilty. Now, if you know the lore, or actually the mythology, when Anubis weighs the hearts, he weighs it with a feather. If the heart is equivalent or lighter than the feather, it is a not guilty heart. If the heart is heavier than the feather, it is guilty. So guilt can bring in threefold if you believe in it. And then if you cast out and you do hexes or curses, and you feel as if your heart, if you're not guilty, if you don't feel guilty, then your heart is going to be lighter than the feather, because there is nothing that weighs your heart down. So I know that this is a debate that I got into before with someone else. They thought it was crazy that I was saying this, because they're like, well, what about psychopaths who like murder people and they don't feel guilty about killing these people? And I'm just like, well, then they don't feel guilty. Now, hear me out. They don't feel guilty because they are psychologically something wrong with them. They don't have empathy. There's something wrong. There's something missing. They don't feel guilty because they don't have the brain capacity to feel guilty. So when their heart will be weighed, it will be light, because it will be lighter than the feather, because they do not have guilt. Now, same being said for a narcissist. They don't think there's anything wrong with them whatsoever, so they're not guilty to themselves. And I also want to say this. Just because someone thinks that there's something wrong with you or your magic, that doesn't mean that you have to feel guilt. You don't need someone else's approval to have your magic be perfect in the way that you think it is, because what your magic is to you should be perfect enough for you, not for someone else. So back to this narcissist. They're not guilty because they don't have guilt. So for threefold, if you follow threefold and you feel guilt, then it's going to come back to you threefold. So your heart would probably become heavier as well. So I mean, to be honest, I think threefold is a fucking curse, because it has its like lifts where it's like, okay, if I do my magic in this specific way, it's going to benefit me. But if I do my magic in a way that threefold thinks it's undesirable, it's going to punish me threefold for something that I know I should have done for myself. Like, think about it this way. Like, let's say, I can't express it enough that I feel like it's a punishment. So I want to get to the blinding white light, because I can rant about this forever. I can rant about how much I hate threefold, because the more I talk about it, the more I realize how constricting, how belittling, how conformative it is. And it makes magic in Wicca so conformative. So I want to talk about the blinding white light. So because of threefold, and it makes Wicca so conformative and constrictive, and like, you don't have boundaries. Everything, the threefold is literally just a parallel line. It's uniform, it's parallel, you can't go outside the lines. And I hate it. Oh, I hate it. See, I'm still ranting about it because I hate it so much. I can't. So let's talk about the blinding white light. So the blinding white light you will see in communities all over Facebook, any platform that you're on, Tumblr, Twitter, whatever you're on, you will see it everywhere. And I can't express this enough, because you will see it, and you will once you realize that you're seeing it, you will see how much I hate it, and I hope you do. So, I'm not talking about the people who do practice threefold. I'm talking about the people who practice it and sit on their moral high horse with it. So let me explain. Okay, let me explain, guys. Okay, so whenever I see people posting about dark magic or black magic in a more pagan, Wiccan type community, there is a ton of hate from the people who practice in the white aspect, which technically would be the right-hand path. And they're very belittling to the people in the left-hand path. And let me explain why. It's because they don't understand. So, I recently was actually on a page and dealt with this problem, but I also deal with this problem like every day, so it's not just from this one scenario, because I've used examples in this podcast episode for more than one example. For one, this girl posted about how people who think that demons, or Ouija boards, or anything that we see as technically dark is the influence of Christianity and Catholicism, which honestly is true. So let me tell you how much true that is. Some people will be like, oh, that's not true. And I'm just like, okay, well, let me tell you from my experience. Whenever I joined this path when I was 16, I was terrified to even think that demons were acceptable to work with. I was like, my mom would tell me, she was like, you're gonna slip into something evil, it's gonna be evil. And my mom was like a Pentecostal Christian, so that should tell you. Like, yeah, okay. And I live in the Midwest, right in the Bible Belt. So, yeah. So, and Christianity has been a big influence on my life ever since I was little, but it's never been my life. Ever. Ever. So that's how it was for me when I first started. And then when I turned about 17, I was like, yeah, this isn't what it seems. And it took a good while, not incredibly long, but it took me a minute to realize that there is so much Christian influence in paganism, in Wicca, in all of these traditions and beliefs that we don't even realize it. And a lot of people fearmonger it, and it's terrifying because it's so much more simple than that. So where was I going with this? Maybe I'll remember probably after I listen to this episode, but yeah, I really should have notes. Okay, so there's so much fear-mongering, and it is not what it is. So oh man, dude, I am so gone. Ooh, okay. Oh, I'm talking about these white light people. So there's so much fear mongering. So when people who are I call the white light, or the blinding white light, they don't understand this darker, misunderstood side of the craft. So they belittle it and they demonize it, just like Christians did to the jinns, to demons, to Lucifer, to tattoos. Yes, tattoos. They demonized tattoos. They did everything they didn't understand. They demonized it, said it was evil, and to not do it. And that's what people in these communities are doing. They don't understand. They think it's bad because of this Christian influence, and they demonize it. This is exactly what happens. And I witness it about every day. And because they see the left-hand path as that way, they call it evil. And it simply isn't so. So I've been called evil a lot. I've been told that I'm a black practitioner. I've been told some pretty interesting things. One of my favorite things is the one where they hope whatever I cast out comes back 3 times, which basically is, I hope you hurt yourself on your own magic. And it's very interesting because there's a lot of times Wiccans that say this to me, and they have a read that says harm none. Do what ye will and harm none. So it's really interesting to hear people speak hate to me because I practice something so differently, or because I have a different mindset about what I practice or about how I think about things. I get told these horrible things, and again, it's the belittling. It is the bullying of these blinding light practitioners because they are helping control the masses, and it's normally neo-pagans and neo-Wiccans who do this because they are controlling what they deem to be okay. They're controlling what they see is correct and what should be happening in the community and what other people should be practicing. So when they do this, I got straight up told today that I was evil, basically. And, for someone who is just wanting to start out learning the left-hand path or a darker path, they get told that they're evil. They get told that they're going to be hurt threefold by whatever they cast out, that they're evil. It's very depressing because you're telling someone that what they're interested in is evil. It's like for those people who work with deities and the people who work without deities. So for the people who work with deities, they're very closely bonded to them or whatever, for example. But then for the people who don't work with deities, it's like calling the people who don't work with deities evil because they don't work closely with a deity like you do. Or the people who work with crystals meet another witch who don't use crystals whatsoever in their work. It's like calling them evil because they don't use crystals. What's the difference? It's just because you practice something that people seem to be seen as dark doesn't make you evil. The only thing it makes you is more intelligent in the craft because you understand more than what they know. Because if they're going to demonize you for your knowledge in the way that you practice your craft, they're the stupid ones, they're the dumb ones, and you just do you, okay? So, those blinding white light people, when you see them, whenever you start really looking for it, you'll really see it, and it is disgusting. Now, there is a page that I specifically love. It's called Wicca for Beginners. It's a private group. I remember joining it like 3-4 years ago whenever it was a public group, and that's actually where I started. But now I'm a Luciferian, so this group has been around for a while, but I don't think you could easily access it. I can't remember. But, the admins there are freaking amazing. So they're pretty snarky, but I love them for that. Because they are all, I'm pretty sure they have an understanding of the left-hand path and darker magics, but they're pretty much, they don't take no shit when people talk about darker magic because they know that neo-pagans and neo-Wiccans don't understand what they're talking about, and they shove it in their faces, and I love it because that's exactly what I do, and they really understand, and I love that. I love that about their team because they emphasize to normalize the left-hand path because it's becoming a more and more popular tradition because it should be, because magic shouldn't be controlled. It should be however you feel it needs to be. It's your path, not theirs. If you feel like it needs to be darker, fuck yes. Go grab you some black paint and make it fucking darker. Who gives a fuck? God, I can't express this enough. And for the people who do be all like, oh, well, threefold's gonna come get you, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. No one wants to listen to that shit. No one wants to hear you talk about how you're gonna sit on your moral high horse and pretend like you're better than everyone else. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Okay. Alright, I think I'm done with this episode. I think I've gotten my point across. I think I've explained everything pretty well, and now I'm just sitting here cussing because I'm pissing myself off talking about it. So, that's episode 11, everyone! Have a great week. We'll see you next time.